Welcome to the New in Lynchburg podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you get the most out of this great city, Lynchburg, Virginia. You'll get highlights on upcoming events, interviews with interesting people. You'll learn more about local nonprofits, and we'll keep you connected to all the new things going on in Lynchburg. Here are your hosts, Josh and Ray.
Welcome to the New in Lynchburg podcast. I'm Ray Gonzalez along with my co-host, Josh Rose, and we are New in Lynchburg.
This podcast is sponsored by newinlynchburg.com, your source for all things Lynchburg. If you're looking for upcoming events, local deals, things to do in the Lynchburg area, make sure you check out newinlynchburg.com.
On this episode, we are going to be speaking with Michelle McCormick from the American Red Cross here in Lynchburg. Michelle McCormick is the executive director from the local Red Cross, and we're going to be talking to her about what the Red Cross is doing in our community.
Now, this is going to be the first time we've had a nonprofit on the podcast. We're going to do that about once a month.
Yeah, we really wanted to highlight some of the local nonprofits to bring awareness to what they're doing in our community. We wanted to give them an opportunity to share some of the stories, some of the successes, some of the great work that they're doing in and around Lynchburg.
Yeah, we really want to develop our community and help kind of highlight some of the things that make us great. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is even a nonprofit, oftentimes they have to pay a lot of money for advertising, commercials, just to get the word out there. Because people get busy, they forget. So doing this lets people know what's going on. But the nonprofits we're doing, they're local and they're helping the people right here in town. So this is something that really affects all of us on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah. So since we're doing the Red Cross first, we wanted to talk a little bit about our experiences with giving blood.
Now, Ray, you had a story that you kind of told me a little bit about earlier.
Yeah. So way back in 2000, I know it's like forever ago, when I was a freshman in college. I just aged myself, and they were having a blood drive at my school. So, I wanted to give back, and I was 18 years old and felt like I could do that. No problem. So I went to go give blood in our gymnasium. They set up all these little stations around, and I went and I sat there and I squeezed a little thing, whatever it was, and gave my blood. But here's the thing. I thought this is no problem. Like, I'm not going to have any issues at all. I stood up and I went right past that table with all the nice goodies that they had, the cookies, the food, the orange juice. I just walked past that because I don't need that, right? So when I walked in to the cafeteria to eat my food, all of a sudden I start getting sweaty and I start getting tingly, because I didn't listen to the lady that told me that I needed to eat something. So I was afraid I was going to pass out. So I sat down real quick and I made sure that I ate something right away and I felt better. But that was a lesson to me that when I'm giving blood, because it's really important to do that, I need to make sure that I'm eating something, I'm following directions, and I'm not just thinking that I'm, a big man on campus and can just go ahead and not do that.
Now, I actually had a friend, or I still have the friend, but he worked for Red Cross and he did a lot of the blood drives. He said the same thing. These high school kids, if they did high school or college kids, they'd walk in, flexing their muscles, showing off how good they are. Yeah, the blood doesn't bother me. One guy in particular, I guess trying to impress the ladies and donate blood. So he goes in and just thinks he's all that, ends up passing out. They end up trying to hide him so he doesn't lose all his dignity there. But the moral of the story is, don't be a macho man. Just follow the directions. They have the snacks there for a reason.
Yeah, so we're really excited to speak with Michelle today from the American Red Cross. I'm going to talk about all the great work that they're doing in the Lynchburg community. Michelle, thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Michelle, before we get into everything that you're doing with Red Cross, tell us a little bit about you.
Short and brief, I'm not from Lynchburg. I'm actually from Florida, and I've spent the last 7 years moving around and being out of state, so appreciate what New in Lynchburg does.
We were all kind of in the same boat. Did you move here because of the Red Cross?
No, the Red Cross was just an added bonus. I moved here and I've worked at a local nonprofit, 2 local nonprofits, and then came to Red Cross. So I've gotten a chance to get to know the community.
Michelle, why don't you tell us more about the Red Cross? We know that it's about giving blood, but we know that it's so much more than that.
Yes, it's a lot more. We focus on different areas and we call those our lines of service. And so with that, we have our disaster program services, which do local home fires, the hurricanes that everyone has been hearing about, smoke alarm installs. We also have a service to armed forces where we do collections and those overseas to different troops and areas in Djibouti, Iraq, and Afghanistan, or Kuwait. We do other things locally for that. Drives at Sam's Club. We work with troops that are here stationed or their spouses, and we also work communication with them. We also have our volunteer services. Our organization runs on 90% volunteers, and so our volunteer services is very important. All of those support all our different programs. And then, of course, we've got the biomed, which we've talked about. But I think what we don't know mostly is that we do a lot of things just for our local home fires. Like I said, our disaster, we do home fires, but we also do the big hurricanes. But every day there are volunteers with the Red Cross doing something for somebody you may know in your area. I would love for people to be more aware of that.
Yeah, that's a really impressive ratio. 90% is volunteer. It takes a lot just to coordinate all that. And you guys really rely on that volunteer support for sure.
Yeah, that's a great thing that a lot of people are actually volunteering. If there's a blood drive, what are some of the different things that volunteers will do?
Well, our volunteers, every blood donor needs to get checked in. And so they'll go through some of that and setting up. You guys talked about canteens and eating. We have volunteers that make sure one of the most integral parts of blood donations are set up. Sure. Of course, we do not have volunteers getting blood or doing anything with that, but the logistics part of the event and putting it on is something that we use volunteers for.
That's great. Now, what about training? You mentioned some of the things that you do with CPR and lifeguarding and things like that. Is there some trainings that you guys give in regards to these things?
Our CPR classes, we just had multiple ones in our local office. Red Cross is still one of the number one givers of CPR and training courses. It really depends on lifeguarding, what kind of area you're in. Wise are typically a place where we can go. So it depends on pools and the opportunities we have to teach, but CPR happens multiple times a week and all throughout the month here in our local office.
When I was in college, I received many certifications through the Red Cross. So they did CPR, first aid, even some lifeguarding stuff. So that was pretty cool just to see all the work that's done with that. And a lot of that was volunteers as well. They have to be certified, but they're volunteers. So going back to giving blood, my wife in high school was less than 100 pounds and she could never give blood. What are the requirements to give blood besides being a macho man that will eat snacks afterward?
Well, thank you for reminding us all that we need to eat after giving blood. One of the main requirements, like you said, your wife, there's a weight requirement. And so I do believe you actually have to be 100 pounds to give blood. So nobody under high school gives blood for the most part. And we don't do it by greater age. It is a weight limit. You also go through a big series of questions when you first come in. I'm sure you guys remember that. You get sat down by somebody from the Red Cross and they'll ask you questions. It's not an easy list to roll off. Things have changed since maybe 5 years ago. Some questions we don't ask.
But they would get that when they show up, could answer the questions and that sort of thing. If they weigh enough and they answer all the questions, everything's good. How often can someone give blood?
Every 52 days. And they will call you. If you give blood to the Red Cross, they will definitely call you. And if you give platelets, it's double that. So it's 100 and I think it may be 105 or 6, they add a day or two because platelets obviously takes more out of you.
So how does the platelet process work compared to the blood? Does it take longer?
It does take longer and they're taking more out, running it through more of the system. I'm still amazed at how blood even works and how we get blood and send it out. But it takes a little more of a different cell, so to speak, or something, the platelets out of there and they put them back into your body. But they do essentially take more blood out, which is harder on your body, and then puts it back in.
Hence the longer period of time. Now, I noticed this trend, and you probably do as well. After we have a disaster, you see it's like a spike in people donating. Now, blood doesn't last forever. What do you do during the times when people are not donating as much because of just they forget about it?
We come on stuff like this and tell folks who are listening to come give blood. We do appreciate a lot of what Red Cross is able to do is because folks, when they see a disaster or see something happening, that initial inkling inside of them to give or to help happens. And so we do not negate any of that. And things, whether it's funding or blood or your time, we want to use during disasters, but we need blood all year. People are constantly in car accidents. Our blood is used for different chemo treatments, medicines. So there are other things happening with the blood rather than just mass casualties somewhere. So we do really hope that folks can give blood on a regular basis.
Now, with the blood, do you service local hospitals and things like that as well? Or is it just for specific events?
Oh, no, we have contracts with hospitals all throughout the country. Red Cross gives 46% of the nation's blood supply. So if you think about every state who has their own particular state, and through that, we have different contracts with blood with hospitals. And your blood here in Lynchburg could possibly go to another state. You were talking about your friend used to transport blood. If it's needed, we send it there. So it's not only sent here. Yes, it can be done locally, but it will also could possibly be helping somebody across state lines.
What are some of the community events that are going on in this area?
Well, we are gearing up. We have some that happen internally just for folks that are already a part of us. We have some things that'll happen before you're able to hear about this. So our biggest one will be in March 20th, 2018. We have an event at Liberty. It's called our Celebration of Heroes. And that is us honoring local heroes. So you or anybody can nominate somebody. We have a committee that goes through and picks them. And so we honor those folks and give them awards.
So what constitutes a local hero? Give us some details. We want to know what kind of heroics you're looking for here.
Anybody. It's kind of up to you. It's up to the community to nominate them. This doesn't come from the Red Cross. We give the opportunity for anybody to do it from, let's say, I know someone who feeds my neighbor who can't get their meal every day. And they don't do it through Meals on Wheels. They don't do it through their church. They do it because they know my neighbor may need dinner every night and they share it. That to me is a local hero. We have different categories, so they're very broad. If somebody we think needs to be honored out of those 10 categories, we will find a place for them.
And it might be somebody that's an unsung hero, right? That's somebody that isn't broadcasting what they're doing, but they probably need to be definitely honored in that way. So that's great.
What do you want to share with our audience? Maybe things that people don't really realize about the Red Cross, shatter some perceptions here.
I think what people know, but I would like to reiterate, is that the Red Cross has really been quite active the last few months, especially with the hurricanes. We were active with the Vegas shooting, working on canteens and casework. Fires out west, you being from California, know about a lot of those fires. Flooding up in Canada, we had local volunteers sent up to Canada. And the unfortunate side of what we do is that it's always in a disaster that many people become aware of who we are and our presence, and really thankful that we're able to help in some of our toughest times to our neighbors and fellow citizens and what they have to endure. And I don't ever want folks to forget that the Red Cross exists, whether it's your local disaster like a fire in your home that we mentioned earlier or something on a broader scale. Red Cross is always there to help.
We've had so many disasters recently. We've had the fires, we've had the hurricanes, there's the earthquake in Mexico, which does affect us a little bit. So much going on. And I think there's a tendency to kind of forget once a little bit of time goes by. So it's very important to remember that all year long, Red Cross is doing things for the community. Donate blood, volunteer, support that. So those are kind of national things. What is Red Cross doing like right here in Lynchburg?
Well, in the community, we also need people's help to make these programs happen. Whether your company sponsors or you donate blood or money, those are things that we use in larger and smaller scales. And we would love folks to come and volunteer. This is a way for us to continue to get our mission out of what we're doing in the ears to our community. I'm open to meeting anybody or talking with anybody about how they could possibly be involved with what the Red Cross is doing, whether it's through blood, volunteer services, disaster, our armed forces, if you have a heart for them. We locally are doing things constantly. And so there's a lot to get to know, and we are open to chatting with anybody who'd be interested.
That's great. We really appreciate you sharing what the Red Cross is doing in our community. So every episode, we like to ask our guests a couple of questions. So are you ready for that?
Yes.
Okay. Not being from here, what are some interesting quirks or cultural things that you've encountered that makes Lynchburg special to you?
Well, as a runner, I had no idea that this was such a runner-friendly community. That was something really big to me. I was very fascinated by that. And so I think that was a big quirk to me. Just everybody ran. Everybody, no matter who you are, what your capabilities are, everybody seemed to be a runner and very enthusiastic to help support others. So that says a lot about our community and its commitment to healthy living. And also, there's a lot of nice people here, which I'm excited about and thankful for. It's a very nice town. It's a very nice place to be.
Yeah, we think so too.
It's kind of a draw that brought me here was just the people, and it's a nice place. All right, I want to get specifics here. If I were to start running, I'm not a runner. I ran from a bear once. That was about it. So not really. I thought there was a bear, but it wasn't. It just was a loud noise. So anyway, if I wanted to start running, where specifically would you recommend?
Well, I'll give a shout out to my friend Jeff Fedorko, who owns Riverside Runners. They do a weekly fun run for anybody. And so you don't need to have friends. You don't need to know. Everybody starts together. They finish together at the store anytime, any abilities. That is what I would say to do. I think it's our fun runs on Tuesday nights, and it's a good way to have community and start running.
Well, there we go. What are some of your other favorite things to do in Lynchburg?
I really like hiking, and I enjoy getting to know these small towns. I went to my first apple festival harvest. I'm not even sure what you call them. We didn't have those in Florida or Seattle, so it's kind of nice to get to know. I slingshot my first apple into a barrel.
Tell me about that. What does that even mean?
I know, right? It means Virginia. No, there were 2 wooden posts with bungee cords and some kind of handkerchief thing, and you stuck your apple in the middle, pulled it back as hard as you could, and hoped for the best that you made it into the field.
So it was a giant slingshot. It wasn't like a handheld slingshot. It was a big, giant slingshot.
Right. Yeah, I'm not David and Goliath. I couldn't make it to that point.
Wow, that's great. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So you had mentioned hiking. Where do you like to hike?
Well, of course, anywhere on the Blue Ridge Parkway is a beautiful ride and hike, whether you're in your car driving up the mountain or walking it. One of my favorite hikes is Crabtree Falls, just for the sheer beauty of it. I think it's an easy hike and very beautiful. And nobody can not do Sharp Top. You got to do Sharp Top at least once in your life. I'd love to make it to Devil's Marble Yard, but I hear there's snakes, so probably never going to hike that.
I've heard all about the snakes, and we live on a farm, and I've only seen like 2, and they just ran away. So I wouldn't. Don't stick your hand under a rock, but I wouldn't be scared. So on the Parkway, my favorite thing to do is I drive up 501 and I get on right at where it crosses the James. Have you been over there?
Maybe.
So the bridge of the Parkway, like there's a bridge across the James, and you can actually walk underneath it. And that's pretty cool. If you have kids, the kids can run along the little footbridge underneath and like see the river and everything. So it's really cool. And you can go there. You can drive to Sharp Top or Peaks of Otter. So maybe like 20 miles or so. That's an awesome spot. Now, Florida, you don't have mountains.
No, we call those bridges. Yeah, those were the most hills I ever got. And we're just going up the Skyway and down the other side.
So was it interesting, like actually hiking up and down instead of just straight? Or did you do that in Seattle?
I did it in Seattle as well, but I think it's hard. It's hard to hike when you're not used to it. I have family that come visits and, you're athletic and you think you can do it. And then you get on a mountain and you start going up and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't what I had in store, but it's a great workout and it's beautiful. But I appreciate the fact that it's beautiful. It's something I did not get. Just like when people go to the ocean, they're in awe of the ocean. I got to live on the Gulf. I got to see all that every day of my life, but now I get to embrace a new beauty. And that's mostly why I like the hiking and the Parkway so much, is because it's something really beautiful.
And not only that, but in Virginia, we also have the changing leaves, which in Florida they didn't have. So I'm sure that's really, really cool for you too.
Oh yeah. Something brand new to me.
So how does our audience get in contact with the Red Cross in Lynchburg if they're wanting to be a volunteer, if they're wanting to give blood? How can they get in contact? How can they get more information?
Well, if they want to contact me personally, I'm happy to have an email, michelle.mccormick, like the spice. So it's michelle.mccormick, the number 3 at redcross.org. They can call me 221-1110. And they can also call our 1-800-RED Cross number. So that's the easiest way to remember, 1-800-RED Cross. Tell them I heard somebody on the Lynchburg radio. They'll find us and they'll get you in contact with me, or redcross.org. And that's where you can find out a lot of information. They have the list of all the different questions about blood. That's why I was like, I could sit here and tell you the 5 things you can't do, but then there could be 50 other things that I would never even know to ask because they're so minute and one conversation leads to another. So all the information you need to know is on redcross.org or 1-800-RED Cross.
That's awesome. Now, I want to thank you so much, Michelle, for coming and joining us today, for taking your time to share that with us. We found out today Red Cross has so much to offer our community and our country. And so we hoped that you enjoyed the episode, were able to learn some valuable information about the Red Cross. And I really want you to check it out. Think about volunteering, donating blood, checking out the different certifications they offer, just seeing what they have. So go to redcross.org. So definitely check it out. Again, want to thank you so much for being here, Michelle, and thank you for sharing your quirks and your favorite things to do in Lynchburg.
Thank you for having me.
So everybody, there's a lot of events going on this week. And make sure you check out our site for all the events. But specifically, Ray, what is your pick of the week?
So I am pulling up my newlynchburg.com events calendar, and my pick of the week is the Hill City Handmade Holiday Market, which we had Faith on the last episode of the podcast, and she talked about her amazing event that's happening November 4th, downtown Lynchburg at the Urban Arts Garage, and we were really excited about this event. She's got over 100 different vendors, local and regional vendors, plus food trucks, so it's going to be an awesome event. They have a lot of mini maker workshops that you can sign up for, cookie decorating, wreath making, all great kind of stuff. And the best part is all of the proceeds for tickets go directly to help a local nonprofit. So it's a great event, a lot of things going on this weekend. Make sure you check them out at newinlynchburg.com. And if you're interested in the Hill City Handmade Holiday Market, you can go to thehillcityhandmade.com.
Now, my wife has already reserved my time so that she can go there uninterrupted and have a good time. She's got it all planned out. Mark your calendars for November 4th.
Yeah, my wife is going as well with our oldest daughter, who is 6, and she's already like picking out which little mini workshop she wants to go to and what they're going to make, because they can make something and then bring it home, and that becomes a nice memory for them too. So they're going to really enjoy that, and it is right around the corner, November 4th. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. Josh, what new content do we have on the website? What is going on at newinlynchburg.com?
Well, yeah, we definitely have a lot of awesome events that are on there, but we have some great things that are going to be coming out. Specifically, I want to talk about the upcoming Christmas guide. So we put together a few guides in the past. We did the fall guide. That was real popular. Did the theater guide for fall events. We did the Halloween guide that just came out. And we're working on a Christmas guide extravaganza.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So we're going to have local shops, decorating ideas, Christmas events. I'm going to tell you the best way to hide presents from children. And we have a lot of different things that are going to make up that guide. It's all local. It's not junk. We really, really work hard to make this quality and something that's really going to help you out. So be on the lookout for the Christmas guide, and it's going to have so much stuff in there. Ray, let's move on to my favorite portion of this segment of the podcast, and that is the dad joke of the week.
Yes, I am very pleased to be bringing you this week's dad joke of the week. You ready?
I am ready.
You know, I used to be addicted to soap, but now I'm clean.
That's stupid.
It's a dad joke. It's supposed to be stupid.
So out of all the jokes that you're going to come up with, I love it.
I used to be addicted to soap, but now I'm clean.
Now, do the children understand this one? So if I go home, no, shouldn't.
If you didn't like that one, we'll have one every week.
So is this a clean joke?
It is a clean joke.
All right. So if you want more, no, I'm just kidding. No more dad jokes this week. If you want to see all of the upcoming events, things to do, find great places to go, check out the great guides that we put together, go to newinlynchburg.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter. There's a lot of great stuff on there, so check it out.
This episode has been sponsored by newinlynchburg.com, your source for all things Lynchburg. If you're looking for upcoming events, local deals, things to do, all in the Lynchburg area, make sure you check out newinlynchburg.com.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the New in Lynchburg podcast. See you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the New in Lynchburg podcast. Visit newinlynchburg.com for more episodes. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on in Lynchburg, then sign up for our free weekly newsletter at newinlynchburg.com/subscribe. Or follow us on Instagram at New in Lynchburg. You can also check us out at Facebook, facebook.com/New in Lynchburg. We will see you next week for another episode of the New in Lynchburg podcast.